Every time we hear a collective shout, it makes us want to take them to the ground. All the real ones know what it's about, but only if you listen to the sound. You can kick about it, you can cry about it, but we're gonna rock you anyway. Rock you anyway. It's time to play, can't make it go away. We're gonna rock you anyway. The voices scream louder into the empty void, but they're up against an unstoppable force. They beat their fist against a wall of toys, an immovable object, of course. You can fuss about it, you can whine about it, but we're gonna rock you anyway. Rock you anyway. It's time to play, can't make it go away. We're gonna rock you anyway. It's over. It's so over. You don't even know. But we're gonna rock you anyway. But we're gonna rock you anyway. Rock you anyway. It's time to play, can't make it go away. We're gonna rock you anyway. Rock. We're gonna rock you anyway.
All right. I love Suno. Have you messed around with Suno at all?
Right, I'm going to show you my cell phone. That's your answer right there.
So you are technologically impaired.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. I think that's the politically correct way of saying
Yeah.
it.
Nicely done. I last night, it's really amazing. You could just do that. I mean, I wrote the lyrics, but I need to, I'm listening to it multiple times now. I'm like, I need to redo some of the lyrics because they're a little cringy, but it's like almost there to where it's like almost just this professional song in 30 seconds. It's nuts.
See,
So-
I'm always about 20 years behind everybody. Like, I watched Game of Thrones like a couple of years ago. You know, I get into Sopranos about 8 years ago or something. You know, so I'm like way behind on everything. So I'm the one guy, like, technologically. You know, I said to everyone, I don't think cell phones are going to catch on. Like, it's expensive, it's annoying. People being able to phone you and everything. You know, so like, but I'm still holding out. Like, even this phone, I charge it up once a month, maybe, or something, and I make a call, then I just let it die again, you know. So
yeah, my dad's got a flip phone still from back then. He just refuses. He says, I don't want any of that stuff. And he also says he doesn't want anybody to be able to reach him. He says that's a benefit, right?
this is the dad thing, I think, you know. I think because I've been a dad now for 27 years, right, to various kids, right? And like,
right,
they get a hold of me all the time when I'm sleeping. They'll come through and ask me stuff and things like that, you know. So like when you're a dad, you really appreciate your private time, you know. So if I'm in the pub or something or going for a walk, I don't want somebody phoning me up. That's insane.
That's right. Yeah. Understandable. Yeah. Well, as a millennial, I don't exist without any of this stuff. So I don't even know if I'm real right. I might be AI for all you know.
Well, tell me, what time do you go to sleep at? What time do you nod off at night time?
9. I'm an early riser. I get up at
Wow.
around 5:36. I have a 1-year-old baby.
Right.
And she's up at 6 like clockwork. So I just have to.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I always think if you have a cell phone, you're sitting up late, doom scrolling and all that, but you're not doing all that stuff then in bed. No?
I used to quite a bit, but my wife just kind of laid the smack down. She said, "I want after 5:30 with exceptions for whatever you have to do for work or whatever, but I want this to be family time." And I changed that. And at first I was really angry about it because I'm addicted, because it's all a dopamine hit, right? These things.
Yes, exactly.
And you're addicted and you kind of resent her for it for a bit. And then it was like, oh, actually life's better this way. So I'm pretty good about now turning it off at about 5:30. And then that's good. Now we are big TV watchers though. And she loves TV. We actually just watched Kingsman in the last couple months here.
Which one?
The first one. I had to turn it off. It was too violent for her.
Are you serious?
Yeah. She was
but
like,
there is a more violent cut of that movie. Did you get as far as the sequence in the church where everybody was killing each other? Did you get as far as that? Yeah. Now that scene originally, Matthew sent it up to me, the director, when it was isolated from the movie. He just sent me up the scene, and it was 7 minutes long, the fight. And I was like,
oh my gosh,
I've ever seen. And it was actually so intense. Like I was like, this is too much. So it get pared down, and he also has 4 cutaways to people. And it's so funny. There's these little filmmaking tricks that let you sort of breathe a little bit. When it cuts away from the violence to somebody watching it on a screen, you see Samuel L. Jackson, you see Taron Egerton watching it on a screen. And
actually, that's to give the audience a break. That's the purpose.
Relax. Otherwise, it's actually so intense,
Interesting.
So it's a great scene. No, it's a really cool scene.
Yeah, beautiful stuff. I mean, the choreography was incredible. The effects were great. Good storyline, of course, and really fun stuff. Yeah,
that sequence took 3 weeks to film. 3 weeks.
Wow.
And the guy who did it, Brad Allen, he sadly passed away now, but he was the best stunt coordinator in the business. He was absolutely amazing. The bit in Star Wars that everybody likes, the bit in Rogue One, where Darth Vader's walking down the corridor. It's the only good bit in Rogue One, really, but the bit where he's walking down the corridor.
Part everybody goes, yes!
that was Brad Allen who coordinated that, and he's just, he was the best fight guy. Amazing.
Yeah. Interesting. Oh, that's sad that he's no longer with us. So you have a new project out, which is what I mostly want to talk about. And I was very, very surprised to see this. Now, I was surprised earlier this year when you did Psychic Sam. And I was like, Mark Millar's on Kickstarter? What? And you explained that Netflix gave you this break to be able to do this and allowed you to do this. So I was definitely not expecting a second one to happen too. How did you get 2 breaks?
I got a 12-week break and I wrote 2 projects in that time, So I said to the guys, I was actually really ahead on everything. Like I work really far ahead. Like I always have, really. I think I've worked with so many slow artists over the years that I'm always really nervous about the artist.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically every artist,
Yeah.
But I build in such a lead time, But I built in this crazy lead time, like COVID's time. Actually allowed me, because there was nothing else to do, like Scotland was locked down for 18 months, and I actually got so far ahead, and I said to the guys, look, I'm actually about 14 weeks ahead of even where I said I was going to be. Could I do something in the comic realm? Because I wanted to do something Kickstarter, but I also wanted to do something creator owned as well. And I think the way the comic market works now is actually really advantageous in a lot of ways, which is, you can do digital editions, you can do foreign editions, you can do bookstore trades, you can do comics, you do Kickstarter. I think you do all of these things. Sean Murphy had it really sussed with a couple of projects, which I thought was great, and you just do loads of different versions for different types of fan, And it was actually the girl who was cutting my hair about a year ago that made me do the Kickstarter thing. And she was just saying to me that her boyfriend comes in drunk from the pub sometimes, and he just buys something on Kickstarter. He doesn't know what it is. And I was like, this is a market we're not exploiting enough, But then you see it in comics. You've had great success with Kickstarter. Eric July's a great success. Richard Myers a great success. There's like loads of people. And then suddenly, it went from being one-man operations like that to companies like Dark Horse or DC or IDW or whatever doing it too. And then tabletop games and everything as well, so like basically everyone I knew was doing it. And I thought, I think I'll have a try. And it's actually quite fun. Like I love selling stuff, that's like one of my favorite things, like especially when I was starting out, when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, you kind of have to put yourself out there a bit. And it's quite fun, because just sitting typing all the time, I think you go crazy, don't you? So it's quite nice to find something.
That's why comic creators are so crazy. That's my whole theory.
I think that
every comic creator, it's a twofold thing. There's you sit and you are alone in a basement somewhere, like totally in your own headspace, and we're writing fantasy, so we're not even connected to the real world for the most part at all. And then we do that for weeks on ends. And then the only time you get out is you go to conventions where people just adore you and are there. I'm your biggest fan. And so the only interaction you get socially is like this worship almost. And then you pull back to nothing again. And that extreme dynamic, I think, forces every comic creator to go crazy over time. That's my theory.
I think you're 100% right. And I think the dopamine hit of going online as well, and you say something, will get 1,000 likes or whatever, it's kind of easy. I think, especially if you're bored and you're in the house, you think quite nice if 1,000 people agreed with me about something. So everybody's got likes and everything, So I do. I think
environment we have.
Massively destructive. So I about 9 years ago, I came to a decision that I was just going to talk about comics online, and I pretty much do. I just talk about comics and don't trash anybody if I can. I mean, occasionally there'll be something weird that you'll get involved in, but try not to. Because the nice thing about comics is everybody kind of getting on. Like I love comic guys. When I meet comic guys, I just instantly have a rapport with them. Like I've said many times before that I remember doing a flight with a comic pro I didn't know at all. Just by pure chance, we ended up in the same plane for 5 hours from California to New York. Never met each other, wasn't even that familiar with each other's work, but great friends by the end of the flight. Because if you're a comic guy, you probably like all the same things, like
right.
And even outside of comics, because comic related things like movies and so on, or books and all that, you kind of have all this in common. So yeah, it's weird. Like comic guys are an interesting little breed, and when we meet each other, I think we should get on.
Yeah, I agree with that, and maybe I'm too mean to people online. Maybe this Mark intervening from being like, just be nice to people.
This is Catholic to Catholic.
That's a Catholic thing, right? Yeah. I try.
I do. I mean, if you meet comic guys in real life, I bet you got on great with them.
Yeah, I know. If they don't ban me from the convention or whatever, so I could do.
Yes, I mean, all that's
the problem.
I mean, all comic guys have just got to just enjoy themselves, and forget all this stuff.
Yeah, I hope we can start getting back to that. I don't know. It's all a product of social media as well, kind of like we were talking about, just that dopamine like function. I think that just gets people riled up too much. But
it destroys entire industries. It destroys film. It destroys books. It destroys comics. It's like everybody's a potential new best friend. That's the way I look at it. But Twitter and these things, just cause divisions in people, don't they?
So we've got Conquered. And I read when this came out, I read the article. It was on who broke this? It was Hollywood Reporter, I think. Yeah. And they were talking about how this was your first pitch to DC Comics.
This is so weird because I've not been doing PR on this at all, because I think I was saying to you, we're scouting on a movie just now. So I was away like an idiot with my diary. I completely got the two things crossed over. So this is me talking about it almost for the first time. I did one last night. I pitched a thing into DC when I was 13 years old. I remember hearing that Jim Shooter was 13 years old when he sold a Superman story to Julie Swartz.
Right.
So I wrote a Superman story for Julie Swartz. This is 1983, right? So I wrote a story and I thought, I'm going to, like, an envelope is quite expensive to send to America. I'm going to put 2 stories in here to make this financially worth my while, So I put a Superman story in there and I put Conquered. Conquered was the other one. And the idea was exactly the same. It shows how little I've progressed since I was 13, but the idea was identical. And what it was the lights go out in New York, in Washington, D.C., everywhere. The power is just cut. A portal opens in the middle of all these major cities in the States, and basically a sword and sorcery universe comes through into America, and takes everybody down, all the power bases, the military bases, the scramble jets and everything, but They're all taken out. There's dragons coming through and all this. And they take the White House. And that's the beginning of the story. That's like America's been taken down, the greatest power in the world. And then they've got their eye on the next country and they plant their flag and they're like, okay, this is our new territories. And they start moving.
So cool.
Yeah.
I looked at the plot and I'm like, this is so cool. And that's very interesting that you wrote it when you're 13 and you love it now. Yeah. And it harkens me back I talk to Chuck Dixon a lot, and he always tells me when you write a comic, you should write it with like a 10-year-old boy, what he would think was just the coolest thing in mind. Yeah. And you know what? At 13, I would have gone to a comic shop, and this would have been in 1994. A Image comic with like 15 variant covers of all one's a gold foil version, and it would have sold a gazillion copies in Image and I would have bought it. And now I'm on Kickstarter and I'm 40 something and I would have bought it and I'm still going to buy it. And so it does, you have that concept in mind. It does actually translate throughout an entire life. And maybe that means we're all stunted as a society, or maybe there's something that's just like eternal about that whole feeling. I don't know.
Or we're young at heart. I mean, I think right. Like I still love the kind of things I loved when I was 13. Like I really look forward to stuff. I always wonder this, guys who don't read comics or they don't watch movies and everything, and I've got friends like this, and I think, what do you look forward to? Like, I mean, I'm doing a countdown, say about 20 different movies or something, coming up over the next year, and even ones that you wouldn't expect, like The Smashing Machine or something, I'm kind of curious to see it and everything, and I don't know, I think that's one thing that comic guys really all have in common as well, is that we have a checklist of things we're always looking forward to. Like next weekend.
A lot of non-comic guys do too. I realized this at Dragon Con. A few years back, I went to Dragon Con. There was this big American football game at the same conference. And I actually bought, and I'd never been to, I'm like, I'm going to go to a football game in the South because it's going to be crazy. Right. And I went, and it was crazy. And and as I walked there, I was like, oh, all these guys they're in face paint and costumes and they got their big like skull crushing things on for their team. Yeah. And then I get back to Dragon Con and they're all in face paint and costumes. And like, this is the same thing. You're right. So everybody does kind of have their little checklist. And what's weird about it is those guys would all go, this is nerd stuff. Yes. And all the nerds would go, oh, that's sports ball. And
you're 100% right. Even that's so true. So true.
I think Warhammer really captured it with Blood Bowl. Did you ever play that game?
I'm not a player, but I do take my youngest daughter, who's 11. She really loves Warhammer, actually. So I go
11 loves War. Wow.
Yeah, she's got
that's cool.
Warhammer. But she's really into dragons. Like she loves dragons, and the Warhammer guys. I don't know if it's the same in the States, but they really cultivate an audience, like in the stores in the UK, where you can go in and spend the afternoon, have a cup of tea and everything, just sit and paint figures and play and things, Right. So I've sat in with her sometimes and they were really brilliant. The first day we walked in, they said, "So do you want a free figure?" And she was like, "Yes." And it was a free little dragon figure to put together, and that was her. She was in. These guys had a customer for life.
So at 11, is she pretty good at gluing all that together? And
yeah,
because I can't even do that now.
So, honestly, my youngest daughter, I mean, I've got a few kids, but like my youngest one has got this incredible practical skill thing, right? She's like, like MacGyver, where she can just build something out of anything kind of thing,
Wow.
So whenever, comic companies or whatever send me boxes of comics, she's like, "Dad, I need the boxes." And she then puts them together into something really elaborate. So we've got 2 cats, and she built a palace for our cats that has a swimming pool over on one side, a working drawbridge when you pull strings and things like that, and stairs, beautifully cut out stairs going up into 2 bedrooms for the cats.
Wow.
Crazy.
You have a really artistic family in general, like all the way around.
Honestly, I don't know where she gets this, but she sees the world in a sort of different way. She can actually sort of see 3D schematics and everything. She figures it out. She doesn't even have to measure it. She's got some crazy skill like this. It's amazing. I don't know what it means for the future. I have a feeling she's going to be some kind of dictator. One of my friends,
that's a leap.
One of my pals, we were having a party, and she had all her little friends all waitressing at the party, and she was getting paid for it. She brought them along, and it was all the mums and dads from school, and she was waitressing, and she was bossing everybody around. And one of my pals said, "I've got a feeling she's going to be prime minister one day, and it's not going to be a democracy."
Awesome. Yeah, Narwhal's in the chat. Your
Oh,
artist
nice.
from Vatican City says, "Hey guys, Concord looks great. Dragons can't wait to get my psychic Sam." Me too. I'm excited for that.
Well, do you know, I think the newsletter's just gone out just now, but you know that should be in your hands in the next few days. Actually,
Yeah,
yes,
I saw the update a couple weeks ago. So exciting stuff. I will review it on the channel, guys, once that happens.
I hope you like it.
Um,
'Cause, I mean, see for me, I mean, Johnny Romita Jr. drew one of my first comics when I was a kid, and I remember seeing Klaus Jansson's name before I was 10. So the idea of working with these two guys who are legends, you know, I mean, for me, it's a treat. It's great.
Yeah. So you knew him just from being a fan of his, John Romita Jr., before actually working with him before?
One of the first things I got in the UK, we get these hardback annuals at Christmas time. Our mums and dads would buy us these Marvel annuals, and it was not just comic fans. Every boy in my class would get one of these at Christmas, you know. And I remember one of the first ones I got was the Spider-Man annual 1978, which came out in '77. For some reason, there was always a year between it, and I saw it said Romita Jr. on the side, the sketch, and it was Spider-Man fighting the Red Skull, and the name always stayed with me, you know. And then when I'm doing Wolverine with him and doing Kick-Ass with him and everything, I always remember being 7 and copying his drawing of Spider-Man fighting the Red Skull, you know. So that fan in you is always there, you know. That
That's cool.
Actually working with John Romita Jr. and Frank Miller and Klaus Jansson's Daredevil was probably my favorite comic of the 1980s. I mean, it's a masterpiece, you know. So getting to share a credit box with these guys, that's like doing a movie with John Wayne and Clint Eastwood, isn't it? You know, it's crazy.
Absolutely cool. Now, this artist is beautiful too. I'm not familiar with Valerio's work before. Is he more in the Euro stuff?
He is. I'll tell you how I found Valerio, like, and why I got him to do a big fantasy project like this, a big high concept fantasy thing. What I do in my tea break sometime, you know, usually about 10:30, I think, okay, it's time to stop, go make a cup of tea, and I'll sit and I'll just scroll through Twitter. And you know, I don't have a phone, so I have to do it on the desktop. And so I look at Twitter. So the artwork is big on my big screen. So I scroll down, and I usually look at artists. You know, I follow a lot of artists, and I just kept seeing these images that had a slight Jay Lee quality, a bit like John Bolton, the 70s Marvel artist and everything, you know. And I was like, this guy's amazing. And he had the most amazing name, Valerio Giangiordano, you know. And I was like, this guy's
I wasn't even going to try to do the last name. Yeah.
And I scrolled through his art, and I was like, every picture was better than the last. He did an amazing Spawn picture for Todd McFarlane, a few covers, and I was like, okay, this guy can draw superheroes, he can draw monsters. He's the greatest Batman artist I've never seen draw Batman, you know. So I was like, I need to get in touch with this guy. So I dropped him a line, and I got him doing the Last Nemesis book. He drew the Last Nemesis book, and I just fell in love with his art. And I knew I had this project. It all depended on me getting Psychic Sam done in 6 weeks, which I managed to do. And then I knew I only had 6 or 7 weeks that I could do Concord in as well, because I had that window, you know. I actually did 12 weeks. So I wrote up the first issue, sent it to him, and he was like, I love this, you know. And my God, what a treat. And if you look, the image
dragon
there
looks so cool.
The dragon on the White House. I mean, I knew he was going to do this so well, but that was the original cover I sent to DC when I was 13. I had my crappy version of that, you know, and he just brought it to life. It's like seeing somebody weaving straw into gold, you know. Like, I gave him my idea of what it should look like, and he came back with this, which is spectacular. Now, I have to say, I've actually tailored this book towards his special skills. What he's really good at is hundreds of monsters, double page spreads, big crowd scenes, dragons attacking Manhattan, you know. So these are all double page spreads, and it looks spectacular. So I can't wait to have the oversized artist edition and everything, you know, all these different things for the artwork alone. I've given him, there's not much talking heads in this. It's just lots of really cool stuff happening.
That's awesome.
Like, the very first visual I gave him was a bunch of fighter jets, F-111 fighter jets, being scrambled to try and save Manhattan, and all the dragons fighting the fighter jets, you know. And I'm like, okay, this guy's just nailed it.
He's got a talent at just tweaking perspective to just these angles that are super dynamic in all of these shots. It's really poignant here because you can see the straight on shot just showing how big the fantasy guy is versus I'm guessing this is the protagonist of the book. But every other shot is just such this cool perspective. All of them. Look at it. Look at that one at the bottom, you know, that shot of the king, bottom left. Right. I mean, it looks like Frank Quitely or something. It's just this amazing tough guy, hyper detail and everything. I love it.
Yeah.
Super cool. Awesome. Well, I'm glad you found him, and this looks like a lot of fun. Um, so I, you keep talking about your timing on this, and I'm curious
Yeah.
about this because as I'm thinking about this in Psychic Sam, and you finishing off 2 graphic novels in a 12-week span,
Yeah.
and very very pulp speed of you. I like that. And does Netflix have a quota for you of how much output you have? Like,
Yes.
and like, oh, so you're on a deadline clock all the time, pretty much.
This is going to be really weird. They don't need me to do any comics at all. What they want me to do is, I do scriptments and treatments. So I'll come up with concepts, develop them with designers and things, and then I'll do the basic outline. So Magic, everything from Magic Order on, from 2018, once we sold the company to Netflix, and then I went in house. What I do is I create concepts and flesh them out into full seasons or full movies, and then some of them. Most of them actually I turn into comics. And Netflix said to me, "You don't need to do this. This is like extra work for you because I don't take any money for it. I do it just for fun." And they said it'd be a lot easier if you just did the scriptments and things, and then I'll sit in the edits and all this kind of thing. I'm quite involved, but I just love doing comics, and I didn't want to just disappear from comics, when you're working somewhere else. So Magic Order and these things, they actually started as movies and TV shows that became comics. And I remember people used to always say, "Oh, Millar only does these things, these comics, to turn them into movies." And it's kind of the other way around, like I'll
That's
create them as a
really
movie,
fascinating.
and then I turn them into a comic. So I've hammered it all out as a movie, and then it's quite fast to write the comic, So
Right.
so actually, yeah, I mean, I think I won't be able to keep that speed up. We're going to shoot 2 movies back to back in the first half. Well, second quarter of next year, they'll begin shooting. And then at the end of the year, there's another one as well. So I won't be able to maintain the same pace that I have been maintaining. But these are done. Concord and Psychic Sam are done. I'll probably do a little bit less comics next year.
I was thinking Conquered, like immediately. This is a movie I'd actually want to see on Netflix. It like my first thought. It's very different, but I loved and I forgot about this movie till I saw your Kickstarter. Do you remember Bright with Will Smith?
Oh, I've never watched it. I know the movie. It was Max Landis wrote it, and it was God, the guy who did A Working Man, Chuck Dixon's thing. What's that guy's name again?
David Ayers.
Yeah, David Ayers directed it. Yeah. Is it
really? That was fun. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say it's perfect, but I mean, what is, right? But I liked it, and I liked it enough that I really wanted a sequel, and then it just kind of just disappeared. But it's a fantasy in the real world situation. Very different. But yeah, I like that a lot. The fantasy in the real world, and that portal to the real world sounds really cool. Like I would love a movie of this.
The funny thing is, this and Psychic Sam we own as opposed to starting on Netflix. This is starting as a comic that will become a movie. Only those 2 though. Everything else you've seen from me for 7 years, 8 years is Netflix owns that become comics. But this is the other way around. So we'll probably do it. But it's funny, like I think this is going to be expensive though. Like it's fantasy world. I mean, you couldn't do this for under $200 million. It's like, this is a real, I mean, I've showed it to some pals and they're like, "Oh my God, this will cost a fortune," And the only way
that's why I want to see it, because it'd be amazing if you do that, right?
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think that I'm sure it'll happen at some point, but it's actually, I think so far I haven't really bothered pursuing this because we're doing other stuff. But so far it's the only thing we're not doing as a film yet, but we will at some point, I'm sure,
Great. So let's watch the trailer, and so people can kind of get a vibe for this. Fiona has put this in the chat for you guys, so you can check it out. I definitely am backing this, as I did Psychic Sam. I just love this stuff.
The lights went out.
Look at it.
The power went down. And then they made their move. A hole in space as big as the world opened up. And nobody could save us from what came through.
Hey folks, Mark Millar here to talk to you about Conquered, our brand new series on Kickstarter. The basic idea, Independence Day meets Game of Thrones. The idea of a portal opening up in the middle of New York City, and dragons, barbarians, all these hordes coming in like from a fantasy novel and wiping out America, just taking the country down, and they've got their eyes on the rest of the world. I'd say it's probably the best drawn book I've ever been involved with.
Hi, I'm Valerio Giangiordano, and I want to tell you about the biggest project of my career. I've previously worked with Millar on Nemesis Rogue.
His accent is harder to understand than yours, and I never thought that would be possible. Okay.
Can you imagine us talking to each
Yeah,
other? It's impossible.
I know.
And with Todd McFarlane on Spawn series, but this is my first huge creator-owned title, and I've been secretly working on this since the beginning of the year. Conquered is an enormous challenge as an artist. The entire world at war with a fantasy world. It's very difficult because I'm creating everything from the ground up. But it's so much fun to draw, and we have got the biggest visual here like you've never seen in a comic book before.
A really weird thing about Concord is it's actually the very first proposal I ever sent into a comic book company. The artwork is a little bit better than my originals, Lee felt pen.
Just a little. Yeah.
When I was 13 years old, I sent it to Julie's.
Pretty good for 13, though.
In New York. I got a nice letter back, a rejection letter, but here we are, 40 years later, and it's finally happening.
Concord is an insane project, and I can't wait to have it on my shelves. We are doing this over 4 volumes, and the first is available now on Kickstarter.
Okay, hold on. So you didn't write a graphic novel with John Romita Jr. and Valerio here. You wrote 4 graphic novels?
I wrote three Psychic Sams and 4 Concords. So it's the equivalent
of 7 graphic novels in 12 weeks.
Yeah, but they're only double size, so they're not like 100.
Oh, so they're like 48 pages. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think that's 52, 53. Still a hell of a pace, though. I mean, it's faster than I usually work.
Huge pace, but yes, that's well, I'm thinking 100, 120 pages. And I'm like, that's
no chance.
That's superhuman.
And I
that makes more sense.
I took a little holiday as well. I was knackered, I mean, I really hammered through it, but I was really enjoying it actually. And sometimes, it's funny. People always get it around the wrong way. People always assume when something's rubbish that you did it fast, and usually that's the thing that takes you ages, isn't it? Whereas the thing that's really good, you do fast because you're loving it and you're burning through it.
Yeah, if it's a slog, it's more difficult to write.
Bad sign.
And therefore it takes you longer, and then you find your distractions to keep it going for longer. And
Absolutely.
then when it's in that zone, it's just oh gosh, I woke up and it's done. That's definitely how it works for sure.
100%. And it's always frustrating if you see a review and they're like, Millar rushed this one, I think. And I'm like, no, that one took me 4 times as long.
So okay, so you did this. Yeah, that's my little one.
How old is your kid?
She's 1 and 3 months. So yeah.
Yeah, how's that?
You said hi. I don't think she can. She's. I actually don't have my own office that's closed off. It's like a landing. And so you can hear everything in the background with the dogs and her. And my dog's still here, by the way. He's chilling with me. So I don't have a shock collar though, guys, for anybody who's.
For anyone who didn't know, we were chatting just before this, and you've got this Bernedoodle, it's called. My wife has picked a dog for us to get at Christmas time.
We're shooting this on iPhone, so we can.
Nice.
There he is.
Well, that's not too big. Like the one that we're getting, this Bernese Mountain Dog, it looks like it looks like Lou Ferrigno in a dog suit. It's gigantic.
They're Bernese Mountain Dogs by themselves are huge dogs. Yeah.
But what I'm dreading though is somebody said to me that by the time they hit about 8, their back legs go, and you have to carry them everywhere. And these things weigh about 150 pounds. So I'm dreading that. Yeah.
Good stuff. So. Okay, so you've got 4 of these that'll be coming out, and so interesting. You told me you've got an assistant running the Kickstarters and everything like that, which is cool. I'm jealous because that's a lot of work to put together. By the way,
it's a lot of work. I've never even bought something on Amazon. So like I don't do anything really online apart from social media.
You never bought something on Amazon.
Never bought anything online. Never bought anything online. And again, it's not like any, I'm taking a stand and I just thought I can't be bothered, But like what I'll do, but I'll go if I'm in the shops and I see something I like, I buy it in the shops usually, So, and I'm a great believer as well, though, in like, the high street has been really hurt, or the retail has been hurt by internet. I think, if you want your neighborhood to be all boarded up and empty shops, then buy online. So I'm like, no, I want my neighborhood to look nice.
Fair. Yeah. I do. I love, I mean, some of my favorite things doing growing up and even now is just walking through the comic book shop and the game shop and the bookstore and then getting a coffee and just doing that.
Yeah.
And we have lost a little bit about of that quite a bit. And I feel sorry for my other kids who are teenagers, because
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, what do you guys do? You know?
Although from what I hear, the kids are about 14, 15 and everything, they're really getting into malls. Everybody said they love the idea of hanging out in a mall and everything, So
Really?
you do forget that everything's a cycle.
Yeah.
What was cool is uncool and vice versa, So the idea of a magazine again, like one of my friends runs a massive magazine company, and he said after years of decline, magazine sales are starting to go up again, which is really interesting. And he said that a lot of 14, 15, 16-year-olds are thinking, my God, my parents and my big brothers and sisters spend so much time online. I'd like to read something that's made of paper and it's kind of collectible and everything, So that's kind of interesting. I don't know if there's going to be a little wave of these guys coming through.
Have you read the reboot of Heavy Metal? Speaking of magazines.
No, I remember they were doing a Kickstarter last year. Did it eventually come out? How has it been?
Yeah, they had one issue. I think the second issue's out. I haven't seen it in the comic shop, but
how did it look?
It was pretty good. I was actually impressed with what they did. And so
who was in it? Who were the talents?
Oh gosh, I didn't know any of the names. So
Right.
you probably will more than I do, but they wasn't really a lot from American comics. It was much more, but Heavy Metal's always been that way. They've been very focused on the Euro comics as much, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't appreciate that as a kid. When you're a kid, you assume everyone's American. So
Right.
when I used to see a Heavy Metal, I thought, well, there's some people with some very elaborate names in New York these days, and you realize, oh no, this guy's an Italian artist, and all the guys I love now, weirdly enough, are all European artists. Like all the guys I've worked with for the last 5 or 6 years have pretty much all been European guys. There's some amazing talent being discovered like that.
What would you say your favorite Euro comics are?
Oh, favorite Euro comics? If you look at my shelves, the Mobius stuff is obviously, the gold standard, I tend to just buy a lot of that stuff for the art, though. I don't really read it, I buy it quite often untranslated because I really like the look of like French lettering and everything,
Oh, it's so cool. Yeah.
So sometimes I just look at it to enjoy it, and quite often the stories are so opaque, you can't quite get into it as well. The Mobius, But yeah, the Incal, all that kind of stuff is all brilliant. But some of my favorite things are like I've got a 3-volume thing called Inside Mobius, which is like telephone.
I have that from Dark Horse put those out. Yeah.
There's 3 of them, and I just open that up sometimes for inspiration. I think being a comic book guy, I'm really influenced a lot by comic book art. That gets me thinking about things. So I just sit and sometimes don't even try and take in the story and just look at the art, believe it or not. There's guys who I love, obviously, who are comic book writers, but for me, it was always about the art. I wanted to be an artist more than I wanted to be a writer as a kid.
Interesting. I never had any art talent at all.
Yeah.
So I just looked at it and I'm like, that's pretty. And I don't know why. But I know it's pretty, right?
You can tell good from bad, though, can't you? You can probably tell comic art from bad.
I think I don't know. I'm getting older with it, I'm getting a lot more relaxed about good from bad, because there's an objective level where it's like, okay, this person's not professional, but I'm also seeing a lot more like, oh, that's a stylistic choice. And I think when I was a teenager, I was definitely not open to stylistic choices, and if artists moved away from that Marvel DC house style back then, I was like, what's going on? And it'd be a problem for me. But now I'm kind of like Narwhal's a great example of that. He's very stylized, and I loved what he did in Vatican City. I was just like, that's phenomenal stuff.
Have you read the whole thing? Have you seen all 3 issues?
Yeah, of course.
That last issue in particular is spectacular, isn't it? double-page spreads and so on.
Really good. I was sad it was 3 issues. I wanted that to be a 6-issue series.
Again, it was just time for me because, there's a certain amount of things I have to do, and I only had time to write a 3-issue comic for that one, But I really loved working with him, and, I definitely want to work with that guy again. He's a really great guy as well. I really like him as a person too. But his art, like, I don't know. I've been doing this job so long, right? That, whenever art comes in, you sometimes take art for granted. Sometimes you're like, okay, here's page 17 of the 4th issue of this thing we're doing, but then there's guys like Per, Narwhal, who just does something that you cannot fathom. You know, his choices are unlike any other artist. He's like a super
Yes.
brain, you know. And he's fast as well, but there's something delicious about his art. I love his use of black and everything, you know. But he's another guy. I was just scrolling one time and I saw the boy Zach's comic that he was doing with him. There was some images up online, and I've never seen storytelling like this in my life. It was just such a natural storyteller. It was genius, an absolute genius. I'd recommend. I'm not just to buy my book. Anything this guy does, people should be checking out.
I came across him because he actually messaged me and said, "Hey, could I send you a copy of my Earthbound book?" And I said, "Sure." And Narwhal, I forgot to review it back in the day. Sometimes I'm busy. Beautiful book. Earthbound's phenomenal. Look it up by just look up Narwhal Earthbound, and you guys can find that. By the way, that's an excellent one.
I do this sometimes. I mean, in my tea break, like I say, once I've got an artist who I like that, I sometimes just Google image search them for the pure fun of it. You know, I mean, I guess other people check out pornography. Maybe I check out comic book art online, and my you know, so
that's healthier as a Catholic. I like that.
So I love scrolling through it, and I get total pleasure. You know, I'll maybe find a Travis Charest image that I've never seen before, or something, some sketch he's done at a convention or something like that. You know? So I'm a big fan of doing 10 minutes in the morning, just checking out people's comic book art.
I stalked Terry Moore's Instagram. I love so he did, of course, one of the early books I saw, How to Draw Women. Oh, yeah. And he just draws he draws them in this, like, it's weird. It's cartoony yet realistic at the same time. I can't even explain it, but it's just, he's perfect at it. And everything he draws is just so beautiful. And I wish he'd get more recognition, but you know, I wish that about too many artists. Like, I wish this person would get more recognition. Right.
I think it's funny when you're a kid, anything that deviates from the house style, you don't like, don't you? Like, and all my favorite stuff when I was a kid, I'm sort of lukewarm on now, you know, whereas the stuff I hated as a kid, I love now, you know.
Yeah,
and
there's a lot of that for me
original art I'll go and buy, because it's a guy who has these idiosyncrasies that makes him special. But when you're a kid, you hate idiosyncrasies, don't you? You want the Marvel house style, don't you?
That's right. Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic for sure. Now, you've been super productive beyond this stuff, and that's interesting on your Netflix just process right there. You've been super productive, I'd say, over the last couple of years for comics. But as I'm thinking about it, you mentioned earlier that artists, you know, were slow, and so you get ahead so that they can kind of catch up on things. So these were done, I guess, you wrote this in, you said COVID or a little after COVID, maybe. So these were all 2021.
Oh no, sorry, that's where I got ahead on some of the Netflix.
Oh, you got ahead back then.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, this I wrote it. I think it was November, December, and January. I think it was around about that time. Just
okay.
Past,
these are really recent.
Yeah, really recent, and maybe it was October, November, December, something like that. You know, but that's it. You know, so I'm back on to doing Netflix things now. You know, we've got a big sci-fi crossover series coming next year that I'm working on at the moment. You know.
Is that a TV series that's going to be coming out?
No, what we'll do is this will be so far down the line in the live action side, because it's pulling together 4 franchises that Netflix has. So you have to introduce the franchises first before we can do the crossover, you know. So like, it'll be like Starlight, Space Bandits, Sharky, and Empress. You know, so once we've established those, then we can cross them over. But it's weird, you know. The weird thing about being in a studio is we talk about stuff like 10 years down the line and 5 years down the line, you know, like that's just normal, because it takes 4 years to make something if everything goes well, you know. So there's so many times we started working on something, the scripts aren't right, and the thing will be moved to one side, new people are brought in and everything. It's an education, you know, sort of seeing behind the scenes, because huge amounts of money are involved, you know, so everybody has to be happy before things can happen.
It's like that in comics though too, because I remember when reading Jupiter's Children's first book when it was when it came out in issues way back in the day, and we finally just got the conclusion to Jupiter's Legacy last year. And I had to reread the whole series because it's been so long.
It's like 12 years. It's insane, you know? Cool. I know. Isn't it? You know, I mean, this is all behind me on the shelves here. You know, so I do love that feeling when the comic shows up and it's done and it's on your shelf. It feels like a little victory when that trade is done and it can sit beside the other ones and everything. You know, it's great.
Absolutely. Now, so you had a big flurry of releases last year, which was awesome. Yeah. And you're actually kind of in a pretty good pace and clip this year, I'm seeing as well. So we got the return of Huck. So I'd say of of my Millar tier things, Huck is up there as one of my absolute favorites. I wasn't even expecting a Huck to return. It was such a one and done concept. Like I wasn't expecting Huck to return. What came about with that?
It was because, actually, like I say, these things start with something else. We were developing the Huck television series, and the guys were saying, well, we can't just do one season. What comes next? I always had this idea of where it was going next. Like, I love the idea of opening that world out a little bit and doing superheroes in a kind of Stephen King way, where it's just really normal, that there's just an old lady who lives in the woods and she's got some weird ability, that kind of thing, to make it more like folk tales than big bombastic superhero things. So I had this idea for where it was going. So I just wrote it up. And then I thought, well, I've written this already. I might as well do a comic of this as well. I like doing comics. so I turned it into a comic. But we developed it as a movie. Then we developed it as a TV show. And I think we're thinking about it as movies again. There was the first guy who pushed, who's doing it as a movie. Actually, this was before we sold to Netflix. There's a guy who's a very good director, actually, and he's a writer-director. But he'd such a wrong take on it. This was back in 2016 or something, not long after it first came out. And he says, what if it starts with Huck murdering someone? And I was like, what? And he said, well, somebody who's as good as Huck, how does he deal with that? And I was like, that's the maddest thing I've ever heard. Like, the audience don't even know who he is. And you're having him murder somebody in the opening scene, So it's one of those things that even brilliant people can not get things sometimes, So we've been waiting on the right person for
I think a character like that, it might be hard for a lot of Hollywood, because a lot of Hollywood ends up in this like edgy, jaded kind of, and you're definitely an edgy writer too. I mean, let's be honest.
I can do it all.
I can do it all though. But Huck's not, right? Huck's very innocent and very pure as a character, right? And when you look at that, like I think like somebody might read that and go, well, an audience needs it to be snarky or needs it to be a twist on it, right? Maybe that's the disconnect there.
Well, yeah, it's funny because I think whenever you do something that actually touches people, though, as well, it can be very over-rewarded at the box office as well. So it seems crazy, to always look for the adult take on something. Because I think, Huck is Forrest Gump, really, isn't it? It's something charming and just a decent, pure-hearted person, That, it kind of never fails, Like, I think there's a version of it, you could make it relatively cheap as well. And we've got closer, the direction that's been moving. The guy who we're talking to right now, he gets it. He just completely understands it, which is nice. So we're in the very early stages because we've tried a movie, tried it as television, and then we're back to doing it as a movie again. But for me, it's a kind of slam dunk. I think it's such an easy character.
So that's pretty interesting on the level of how long it takes for these things to develop and then redevelop, and sometimes they don't go anywhere. But Netflix obviously doesn't mind the story getting out as a comic form first. Right.
No,
it doesn't, no bothered in having that story out there for people to kind of know the story and get familiar. I guess it's free marketing, right? Is that how they view it?
I think this is going to sound crazy, but I think this is that it to make me happy. Like they know I like it. So I think they're not that bothered, because they just said to me, the only specification is the level of artist you work with is incredible. You must continue to work with great artists beyond this, after the company sale. And I was like, suits me, they pay for great artists to come in and do this stuff. So to me, that's the best of both worlds, I really love doing comics. They don't mind me doing comics. As long as I get my day job done, they don't mind my hobby, essentially.
And this is a cool thing, and you've talked about this several times, but you actually don't take royalties or anything that's on the comics and only have the artists take royalties, which is kind of cool.
I get a salary anyway, I get a salary. So it seems kind of weird, the idea of me getting cash as well. So what I do is any money that comes in from comics, I just make sure the artists on my book, the first thing I always say to them is, what do you get paid at Marvel and DC? And this can be a lot of money. Sometimes they get paid a huge amount of cash. What's the best payday you've ever had? And they'll tell me, and I'll be like, okay, well, I'll make it considerably more than that, and I go to business affairs and make sure they get paid more. So any money that comes in, I see, like Magic Order, for example, we're very close with that now. Whenever those 5 volumes are out in the stores at the same time as the Netflix stuff is out there, those will go crazy, but I won't see a cent, because I got paid. I was paid as a salary. But what's nice is the artists who did each individual volume should see a really nice payday with the royalties.
That's excellent.
It'll go good.
Yeah, I love the nice conclusion of Magic Order too. That was excellent. Yeah, I really enjoyed that too. So that's getting close on the TV end.
And what's that?
That's getting close on the TV end.
It'll be Netflix movies. Netflix movies.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Cool.
We were developing it as a TV show, and I like the idea of it as a TV show. But the directors they're talking about for the movie side of it, it's like, okay, I was surprised. Like, this is good. I'm really delighted. So we'll see how that goes. That's I feel quite good about that one. Yeah.
Excellent. Cool. All right, chat. If you guys, we're reaching about 50 minutes, and we go for about an hour. So if you have any questions for Mr. Millar here, let me know. This is his Conquered, which is out right now. We got a couple backers over the course of the stream right here, and you can pitch it. You pitched it at the beginning of the show for people who might have been missed it and tuned in. What's this about?
The very simple idea is Independence Day meets Game of Thrones is this simple thing where a portal opens up in the middle of Manhattan and a fantasy world comes through, dragons, orcs, barbarians, wipes everybody out, takes America by storm. The king of that world plants his flag in the US and he's like, this is my new territory. You guys are done, and we're going to take on the rest of the world now. And that's the beginning. That's where the story starts. And so if you want to see dragons versus US fighter jets and all that kind of cool stuff, this is the one for you. But excellent. Independence Day is a pretty good comparison because it's got that same sort of feel-good thing as well. There's heroes, there's really good bad guys. Like what I hate is the the bad guys now are sort of sympathetic and everything, and the heroes are super flawed. I like the idea of like a proper straight up a hero you totally root for. He's just out to get his country back. He's ran for president. He's been denied the presidency by these guys, and he's an ex-military special forces guy who everybody loves and all that. He's a war hero and everything. And he's like, I'm going to take America back, and like, the worst bad guy you can imagine is the king of the bad guys, and all of his family are horrific, So the idea of good guys up against bad guys, it's so old, it's refreshing.
I love it. And I what was I just getting into that? Like I was seeing something. Oh, I was. Are you a Star Trek fan?
I'm a fan of the original series. Never seen any beyond that. I've never seen an episode of.
I was getting into. They did a Khan audio series, which takes place before Wrath of Khan, like how he got there, like to that point. And Wrath of Khan's excellent. I mean, he's just a nasty dude, right? And you're rooting for Captain Kirk, and you're rooting against this guy. Yes. Well, the entire concept of the series, as I'm listening to it, is like humanizing Khan and saying, well, the circumstances changed him to make him. And I'm just like, I can't even listen to it. It's just like, it's really tough. And the production's beautiful. Like the people who write it are very nice people. It's just like, I just like, there's something about, I don't want the mystery of that evil villain, being a guy who should be my buddy, right? It's kind of like a problem, right? At least for me.
I mean, I think one of the reasons for the last decade action movies have had a little bit of a funny time is because an action movie is allowing the audience to feel good about a murder at the end of a film, right? And so think about it, for example, like John McClane kills off Hans Gruber at the end of the film, and you feel great, right? And that's weird because it's essentially the murder of a man, right? But you feel good because he's so horrible. You've spent 2 hours seeing nothing good about this man at all. So when a man who you really worry about and like and everything at the end of the movie kills him, you feel good, which is a strange feeling when you see somebody get murdered. I think the minute you make your hero super unlikable and you make the villain have all these little quirks where you relate to him, then when he kills him at the end, you feel like, hang on, I kind of like that guy, So, so there's certain movies that works, like when you layer your villain in a Tarantino type movie or something, but it's a different emotion from an action movie. And I was inspired when I was doing Conquered, which is very much a good versus evil thing, When I was doing Conquered, I was watching Gladiator on a plane. I was coming back from Los Angeles, and I was watching Gladiator on the plane. And I hadn't watched that movie since the year 2000, since it came out. And it's an awesome movie, right? I mean, that film is fantastic. The first Gladiator movie, is great.
It's one of those like stand the test of time movies, yeah.
It was even better than I remember. And the thing that I loved is that Maximus because he's a big inspiration for the main character in this, the war hero guy who's been denied being president. And you know, a man who's a good man who's been shattered down into nothing, and he's just like a slave kind of thing, you know. And then he works his way back up and takes on the man who wronged him, type of thing, you know. So that's the structure of this, the same as Gladiator. And you feel fantastic at the end of Gladiator whenever he takes out the bad guy. You know, like, when he has a victory, it feels great. And Joaquin Phoenix is so irredeemably horrible, and you think he can't get worse, and then he does. You know, which I love. So that's been my big inspiration for this. Gladiator was a huge thing for me.
Cool. All right, Student of God had a question. I would love to hear Mark talk about what was going through his mind when he wrote Razors, the Judge Dredd universe comic, where people fight over a dead Elvis body to worship. Now, do you remember? So I have a problem. If I wrote something 10 years ago, I'll be like, what did I even write that? You've got such a library. Do you remember this stuff pretty well?
Well, funnily enough, I haven't thought about that since I wrote it when I was about 19, 20, and I haven't thought about it since then. And if you'd asked me what that book was about, Red Razors, it's about the Russian Judge Dredd characters, I wouldn't have remembered it at all. But I think the whole idea of it, was a bunch of guys, thieves, who break into Graceland and steal Elvis's corpse. And it's the judges after them trying to get Elvis's corpse back, you know? So it's completely mental, you know, but I have no idea where the idea came from. I haven't a clue. You know, so I can't answer that.
Did you visit Graceland?
Cool, you know?
Excellent. Excellent. Are there any newer artists you've been dying to work with? Asks Alex Sanchez.
RB Silva and I were talking a couple of years back, actually. I think he was exclusive with Marvel at the time. You know, I think I've had, there's one guy I'm working with next year who I've booked in at Netflix, who is fantastic. He's really good. He's a big European artist who's a bit of a legend, who I've never worked with before. And getting him was a real coup. So we'll probably announce that about Christmas time, I think, you know.
That's exciting.
But he's great, you know, really great. I've got the first 2 issues in, and it's beautiful. I send it. You know, I've got this little group of artists. There's a bunch of guys like Sean Phillips, Duncan Figueredo, Sean Murphy, and everybody, Greg Capullo. There's a bunch of artists who are my friends, who I have a little group chain thing going with on email, you know. So because I don't have WhatsApp or anything, I have these little group chain emails like people did in the 90s, you know. And whenever I get cool art and I send it to these guys, you know, so maybe once a week or something, there's a batch of pages, and I say, like, guys, look what I got, and I send it out, you know. So when I was working with Frank Quitely or Travis Charest or whatever, I would share the pages as they come in. And because comic book artists are, like me, essentially fanboys, you know, everybody loves it, you know. It's so exciting to see what they're doing. And this guy is one of those guys, when people saw who it was and they saw the art, they were like, holy cow, you know, this is cool.
Excellent. All right, guys. Well, thank you for your time and being here. Everybody, please check out Conquered. This is awesome. Can't wait to read Psychic Sam as well. These are fantastic things. And you're I don't know. Yeah, I think you're hitting a stride. Do you feel like you know, at this point you're hitting a stride, like, of just creativity, like, that you've never hit before? Like, because I see that from your output.
Yeah.
And I always hear that, like, your best years are between, like, you know, 50 and 70, like, once you're, you know, in terms of being able to create your greatest works. You know, you might be there.
Well, it's funny, like, I think my favorite books, I'm always aware that the early 30s seems to be good for some of my favorite comics, like Frank Miller or Alan Moore and these guys. You know, they tended to be early 30s, but the audience has gotten older and the people who work in it have gotten older, you know, so we're all
Right.
hitting 50 now and everything, which is crazy. But that just creates different types of books, I think, as well, doesn't it? You know, and one thing you learn as you get older, I think, is you become more of a craftsman. Like, I can look at a story now. This is something I do a lot at work on the Hollywood side of things, you know. I can look at a story and see what's wrong and what it needs to be fixed, you know?
Right.
So a bit like, you know, if you're a mechanic, I know a guy we call the car whisperer, right? And he's an old mechanic, and he'll be sitting in his yard and he hears somebody's car coming in, and he doesn't even look around. He just sits smoking his cigarette, you know? And then whenever you drop in the car beside him and get out of the car, he's like, yeah, I'll tell you what's wrong with the car, you know? Without even looking around, he's just listening to it. He knows exactly what's up with your car, you know? And he'll fix it for you. And I think, like, writers, artists kind of get a bit like that sometimes as they get older too. They just kind of, they get it, you know, they kind of know what makes it work.
It's a good analogy. Excellent. Well, thank you for being here. And guys, check out Conquered. Have a great day and great weekend, everybody, and we'll be back soon.
All the best.